My family always had a strange relationship with money, like it wasn't a tool but a performance stage prop they kept polishing for strangers who didn't even care. In our house, budget didn't mean limits, it meant priorities, and somehow I was always sitting at the very bottom of that list, wedged between miscellaneous inconvenience and we'll think about it later. When my sister announced her wedding, it wasn't an announcement so much as a corporate funding proposal that got instant approval. Within days, the house transformed into what I can only describe as a luxury command center for emotional excess. Designers were flown in like diplomats. Photographers treated it like a royal summit. Even the food tasted like it had a branding deal attached to it. The final cost? $135,000. My parents didn't even blink. They called it an investment in family reputation. Like our last name was a startup they were trying to take public. At the same time, I was sitting in hospital waiting rooms, being told I needed surgery. Real surgery, not cosmetic, not optional, not something you wait out. The doctor had explained it carefully, professionally, like he was used to families who understood consequences. He didn't know mine. When I told my parents, they looked at me like I had just requested a private space shuttle ride to nowhere. "We're still recovering from your sister's wedding," my mother said, not even looking up from her phone. My father added, "It's not the right financial climate for unnecessary procedures." Unnecessary. That word stuck in my chest like a joke no one was supposed to laugh at. The same week, I watched drone fireworks light up the sky for my sister's engagement photo shoot. Each explosion probably cost more than my medication for a month. Guests cheered. Someone live-streamed it. Meanwhile, I was calculating whether pain was supposed to feel this expensive. That's when I started noticing something odd about my grandmother's old storage trunk. It had always been there, like background furniture in a life I was not allowed to question. But after the wedding versus surgery conversation, it felt different, heavier, almost intentional. A faded label on it read, "Do not trust memory. Check numbers." My grandmother, Nana, had been gone for years, but she was the only person in this house who ever looked at decisions like they had consequences instead of aesthetics. People said she was strict. I think she was just the only one who believed reality had receipts. One night, while everyone was still celebrating another post-wedding dinner party, I opened the trunk. Inside was a locked ledger box. Dusty, old, and oddly official-looking, like it belonged in a tax office rather than a family home. On top of it, in handwriting I instantly recognized from childhood notes and scolding grocery lists, were the words, "For when they start lying to themselves about what love costs." The lock on the box wasn't even difficult to open, which somehow made it feel worse. It was like Nana had never intended to hide it properly, just delay the moment someone brave or desperate enough would finally look inside. When the lid creaked open, I expected papers. Maybe receipts. Maybe old property notes or forgotten bank records. Instead, it felt like opening a courtroom that had been waiting decades for a witness. The ledger wasn't just a notebook. It was structured, organized, painfully precise, like Nana had turned family life into a financial audit report written by someone who absolutely hated emotional dishonesty. Every page was divided into categories: investment, loss, emotional inflation, and a section ominously labeled morally questionable allocations. My fingers flipped through the first pages slowly, and almost immediately I stopped breathing properly. There it was. My sister's wedding. $135,000 written in bold ink, underlined twice like it had personally offended the paper it was written on. Next to it, Nana had written, "Emotional black hole investment. High visibility, zero survival value, maximum social performance waste." I actually laughed out loud. Not because it was funny at first, but because it was so brutally accurate it felt illegal. Nana didn't just record numbers, she judged them like they owed her money personally. I kept reading. Then I saw mine. My surgery. The number wasn't even large compared to the wedding. It was a fraction. A small, medically necessary amount that could literally change my life trajectory. Next to it, Nana had written, "Budget-saving decision, medically essential, emotionally ignored, morally catastrophic." Under that, in smaller handwriting, "Note, denial of survival funding equals long-term family liability." My throat tightened, but I kept going because the ledger didn't stop being cruel, it escalated. My parents were listed under a category called Executive Mismanagement Unit. Every major decision they made had commentary. Every excuse they used had been pre-answered years in advance. Even their favorite phrase, "We can't afford it right now," had a matching entry that Nana had repeatedly annotated with. Translation: "We prioritize perception over people." Then I reached something stranger. A sealed envelope taped inside the ledger with my name written on it. My hands hesitated before opening it, like the paper itself had authority. Inside was a single page. Not a warning. Not advice. A clause. It stated that whoever revealed or validated the ledger would become the rightful inheritor of everything Nana had controlled: assets, accounts, property rights, but only under one condition. Family balance correction protocol must be executed until emotional and financial accounts are reconciled. At the bottom, in darker ink, almost like an afterthought but somehow more important than everything else, Nana had written, "Truth is not inheritance. It is responsibility with consequences attached." I stared at the page for a long time, realizing something unsettling. Nana hadn't just recorded our family. She had been waiting for someone to correct it. I brought the ledger into the living room like it was evidence in a trial that had been delayed for years, and the moment my parents saw it, the atmosphere shifted. Not into fear, into irritation. The kind of irritation people feel when paperwork interrupts their sense of superiority. My sister barely looked up from her phone. She was still glowing in post-wedding attention, scrolling through edited photos of herself like she was reviewing stock footage of a successful empire. "What is that?" my father asked, already annoyed, like I had brought home a broken appliance. "It's Nana's ledger," I said calmly. That word alone should have meant something. It used to. But now it just hung in the air like an outdated language nobody bothered translating anymore. My mother scoffed. "Your grandmother was always dramatic with numbers. She didn't understand modern expenses." That was the moment I opened it. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just turned it to the first relevant page. The wedding entry hit first. The room went quiet in a way that felt unnatural, like even the air had paused to listen. "Emotional black hole investment," I read aloud. $135,000. High visibility, zero survival value. My sister snapped her head up immediately. "Excuse me?" I kept going. Next page. "My surgery. Medically essential. Financially denied. Morally catastrophic." Now my father stood up. "This is ridiculous. You're twisting her words." I flipped another page. "Executive Mismanagement Unit. Repeated prioritization of social optics over dependent health requirements." My mother's expression tightened. "She had no right to judge us like that." That's when I said it. "She didn't judge you," I replied. "She documented you." And then the ledger did something I didn't expect. It wasn't magic, but it might as well have been. Because Nana's writing wasn't just notes, it was structured like instructions. The final section activated when I read it aloud, almost like it recognized verification. A new page appeared, one I swear wasn't visible before. "Family Balance Correction Protocol, Phase 1 initiated." I didn't know what that meant at first. Then the front doorbell started ringing nonstop. Guests from the wedding, relatives, friends, even vendors, began arriving one after another. Not invited. Not warned. Each of them holding printed documents that had somehow been generated and sent automatically. Refund forms. Emotional accountability receipts. Even catering invoices labeled luxury performance adjustment charges. People started reading them out loud in confusion. Some laughed, thinking it was a prank. Others looked offended. A few actually signed them just to make it stop. My sister panicked. This is insane. What did you do? But I hadn't done anything. Nana had. Because every page I turned wasn't just exposing truth, it was triggering consequences that had been pre-written like a system waiting for input. And somewhere in the middle of the chaos, I realized something even worse for my parents. This wasn't revenge. It was accounting. And Nana had made sure the debt was still active. By the time the final document appeared, the house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a courtroom that had stopped pretending to be polite. Guests stood awkwardly in corners, holding papers they didn't understand but couldn't ignore. Some were laughing nervously, others were already uncomfortable enough to leave early, and a few were actually reading everything twice, as if the words might change into something less humiliating on second glance. My parents were no longer arguing. That part had collapsed first. The ledger had moved beyond explanation now. It was generating outcomes. A final page printed itself from nowhere, like the house had suddenly remembered it was supposed to finish a long overdue transaction. The heading wasn't decorative. It was final. Family Balance Correction Completion Clause. Under it, the terms were simple in the most dangerous way simplicity can exist. All emotional debts must be acknowledged publicly. All denied necessities must be accounted for. All excess allocations must be justified in front of witnesses. My sister looked like she had finally understood that the wedding she thought was a crown was actually a receipt. "This is insane," she said again, but her voice had lost its confidence. "You can't measure love like this." I looked at her, then at my parents, then at the papers scattered across the room like spilled truth. "Nana already did," I said quietly. "You just never read it." My father tried one last time to regain control. He pointed at the ledger like it was a flawed system that could be rebooted. "This doesn't change anything. We made decisions as a family." That's when the printer in the corner of the room clicked again. A summary sheet dropped onto the table. "Shame invoice summary, outstanding emotional debt, critical." It listed everything. My surgery denial. The wedding excess. The repeated dismissals. Each line ended with a calculated consequence, not financial, but social, reputational, irreversible. And for the first time, I saw my parents not as authority figures, but as people staring at numbers they could no longer talk their way out of. The alien observer, connected through the strange interface Nana had embedded in the ledger system long ago, something she must have built as a backup witness, finally activated again. Its voice came through softly, almost curious. "In our civilizations," it said, "this would be classified as corrective moral engineering. Your species uses chaos where we use regulation." I almost laughed at that. Almost. Because what it didn't understand was that this wasn't engineered by me. It was inherited. The final clause activated without ceremony. No explosion. No dramatic collapse. Just a quiet shifting of ownership, like reality itself had signed a transfer document it had been waiting years to approve. Everything Nana controlled, everything she had documented, everything she had refused to let disappear into excuses, it all became mine. Not as wealth. As responsibility. My parents sat down slowly, like the weight of everything finally had somewhere to land. And for the first time since the wedding, since the surgery denial, since all the silence dressed up as budgeting, no one in the room tried to pretend the math was wrong anymore. Because Nana had left one final truth behind, written not in anger, but in precision. When love is miscalculated for long enough, the correction doesn't ask permission.